Welcome back, everyone, to a market closing live stream. Well, looks like we're getting a little bit of a sell down going into the close. This sort of reiterates you got a lot of nervousness about these earnings, and this makes sense. I went into this week really nervous, and I've been really excited about what I saw yesterday, but maybe I'm getting too excited. Today, we will find out more. We will find out from Facebook, Qualcomm, and ARM, how the AI move is actually developing. So we'll get to hear some updates on Llama. We'll get to hear some updates on 5G chips. We'll get to hear some updates, hopefully, on the Apple partnership with ARM. Maybe we'll even get some hints as to what to expect for Apple on Thursday. We've got about 4 minutes to go until the close, and I will say it has been a doozy of a trading day. The way you got to look at today is somewhat wild because you kind of opened up on the day with a rally in the Qs. You mostly traded stable until the Fed actually teed up a rate cut, and now you're getting some substantial volatility right here into the close as markets are reiterating, we still want to wait for those earnings to come out to reiterate that what we saw is indeed what we're expecting. So in other words, we are going to get at 4 o'clock ARM. We're going to get Qualcomm at 4. We're going to tee all of these up together here, so they're going to be pretty fun. Let's see here. So we'll start with QComm. That's going to be first up on deck. Then we're going to get... This is a pretty big moment. Remember, this is the important stuff. This is actually more important than JPOW. We already knew they were leaning towards the September cut. It was just a matter of wording. So it really shouldn't make that much of a difference what JPOW says. What matters is what happens here with earnings. So we've got earnings for Qualcomm, ARM, Meta, Carvana, Lam Research. All of these, and Western, oh my gosh, and Western Digital, all within the first 5 minutes. They're not even going to make us wait for the earnings today. So we're really going to be wrapping earnings. Oh yeah, we got Etsy as well, Western Digital. Holy smokes, this is going to be an earnings set here. This should be another really good tell. And I think there's a chance what'll happen here is if you confirm great earnings here, that might actually open the door to people really buying the dip on some of these sold off mega caps, whether it's your Microsoft or your AMD. Nvidia got bought up a bit today, but it could also leave some people getting enthusiastic that there won't be a broader market sell-off. It's all going to be these earnings. Of course, we could also have horrible earnings, in which case markets are pretty prepared to go bearish here. So like I've been saying for over a week, it's all in the earnings today. Everything is in the earnings. So let's see what happens with them. We will have those out within the next 2 minutes, honestly. We should start having some of them on deck here. We've got about a minute to go before the closing bell. And then we'll go through the earnings each as they come out. And, yeah, we'll get to see what the scoop is here. Kind of excited, but also a little nervous to see what happens. Let's listen in to see what he says for a sec.
Going to the event, and then you typically consolidate after. So I think that's exactly what's happening with the Powell conference. But I do really like the move in chips, Scott, and I think some of it has to do with the Fed, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that Meta and others are spending on AI CapEx. So I think they want to buy those stocks.
We'll see. I like her, by the way. I think she's a good analyst.
It's coming. It's coming close.
They want to make sure everybody knows. Duly noted. These reports like Meta and then Amazon and Apple, how perfect do they have to be given what we've seen with Alphabet and Microsoft?
They have to be perfect. They have to show revenue growth acceleration on top of CapEx acceleration. I'm not sure we're going to get that.
All right. Well, the market's agreeing for certain. They think the table's set for September. Now we just have to wait and see. Meta's moments away into overtime.
Okay, here we go. Qualcomm. Qualcomm beats on adjusted EPS, beats on revenue. You've got midpoint beat. 9.8 versus the 9.7 expected. Across the board beat on Qualcomm is in. Across the board beat. We do not have any others yet. Just Qualcomm right now. Once again, an across the board beat. Let's go get QCOM up. It's up 8% on the day. Who leaked the earnings? And after hours, I'm starting to get a little bit of a green candle here, but I don't know if it's glitching or what's going on there on QCOM. Actually, this honestly, it just seems like it's glitched out or something. Was it really? Yeah, it's rising quite a bit. I don't really know what's going on here. It's almost like Webull doesn't recognize the market's closed right now, but whatever. So this is oh yeah, here we go. So Qualcomm, okay, so it's up 8% on the day, up 1.8 in after hours right now. No, now it's saying it's climbing 5% after. I don't really know what's going on. Oh yeah, it's up 5% in after hours. So, oh, there we go. There we go. Now it's adjusted. Okay, weird glitch there, but that's very, 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 very good. Okay, good. So the first one comes in strong. Qualcomm, this, again, you don't want a recession. You do not want bearish earnings. We are a Fed rug pull away from bearish earnings, which we did not get a Fed rug pull here, or we are, some bad earnings away from a recession. So, that's my opinion. So I've been saying it for over a week. I'm gonna hedge a little bit, but boy, I really want it to win. So, again, triple beat on Qualcomm. We're now just waiting for ARM, Meta, Carvana, Lam, Etsy, and Western Digital. Looks like you're trying to hold on to about 5% in gains there, leading the Qs to move up about 31 basis points there in afters. You've got about a 35 basis point rally there on AMD after NVIDIA is trying to push up a little bit afterwards as well. You're getting that reiteration there on chips. Let's see if it holds. ARM comes in, total revenue beat, and the forecast comes in with a B. It's roughly a match. It's a match on forecast Q2 revenue. 805, estimate was about 806. The revenue this period came in at 939 versus 905 estimate. That's a beat. You've got Q2 adjusted EPS missing a little bit, 25 cents versus 27 expected, and Q2 revenue, again, just under about 1 mil there. Q1 revenue beat, Q1 royalty revenue missed a little bit. So you're a little mixed there on ARM, not as clean on ARM. So you've got ARM moving down about 3%, could have been a little cleaner. Qualcomm very clean. And waiting for Western Digital, Etsy, Lam Research, Carvana, Meta, still waiting for those. ARM, somewhere about, it's only down about 0.25% right now. Looks like you're trying to recover. It's bobbing around. It's all over the place right now. It's now as low as 3%. Boy, that's a lot of movement there on ARM. So let's see what happens here. But again, that guide missing just by a hair at ARM. I think that affects Apple probably more than some of these chip plays. Meta is going to be a big one here. Apple not really moving on this at all. ARM's now down right around 2 to 3%, and Qualcomm up about 6.6%, leading AMD and NVIDIA to move up about 0.25%. So nothing huge there. Okay. Waiting for the additional earnings, specifically Meta, which is scheduled for 4:05. Carvana's at 4:10. Lam and Western Digital are 4:05, as well as Etsy at 4:05. So it looks like our next are coming out at 4:05, which is in about 1 minute. So let's see what happens in about a minute here. ARM now down about 3 to 4%. Microsoft's up a couple basis points in after hours. Nothing major here. And let's see here. Q1 licensing and other revenue, nice beat at ARM. 40 cents of adjusted EPS versus the 34 expected. So really just tiny weakness there on the guide. Missing rev by about 1 mil and that adjusted EPS by about 2 cents. So a little bit of a miss there. Qualcomm gives bullish forecast after phone demand picks up. That could actually potentially be bullish for Apple. We'll see. Probably need to get into the earnings call and some more details for that. But Facebook is now about 10 seconds away. Here we go. This is the big one. Let's go ahead and pull Meta. Just throw it on screen right here. All right, here we go. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I see giant candlestick on Meta. Holy smoke, us beat. Operating income, 14.85. It's a beat over the 14.59. Revenue comes in at 39 bill, beats 38.34. Adjusted EPS, big beat, 5.16 versus 4.72. Whoo, boy, this is some good earnings right there. That's pretty good. Meta Platforms ad revenue 38.33 versus the 37.57. Reality Labs loss comes in less than expected, 4.49 billion versus the 4.53. This is an across the board beat over at Meta. This is really good. Nice 7% move up on Meta here. Forecast Q3 revenue. That looks like I got to do the math on that. That's 2.5, that would be about, oh my gosh, what's half? 1.25. It's a beat. It's a beat. The forecast is a beat by almost $50 million. That's a beat on Q3 guide as well. Holy smokes, that's good. Higher total Reality Labs operating losses, that's fine. Going forward, total OPEX. Total fiscal year expenses expected to come in at 97.5 billion. That's roughly in line with what you would have expected for Meta. So really good move here on Meta. Look at Meta, by the way. You're right here on that 471 line. Meta might be trying to visit 560 next. It's sitting at about 510 right now. I've got a little bit of exposure to Meta. I wish I had options on it now. Jeez, that's really nice, but I don't. Anyway, so you've got, what else is moving after that? Looks like you've got a move after that coming in here. Qualcomm trying to hold on to 4%, not doing so well at holding on to it though. ARM is dropping about 5, getting down to about 134. Looks like AMD's struggling a little bit, sitting above that 145 line, getting a little rejected there. Microsoft's trying to come up 22 bips here. Looks like Nvidia, once again, the beneficiary of better AI earnings here. This is, that's pretty incredible. Once again, Nvidia up and AMD a little bit getting left behind, honestly. Meta now up 6.25. Let's go for the next earnings here. Lam Research comes in with a beat, 387 versus 383. Lam adjusted EPS, 8.14 versus 7.6. Q1 forecast coming in at a rough match. Etsy, EBITDA margin down 27 versus 28.9. Etsy announces the retirement of the CFO. Q2 EPS miss. Q2 revenue beat. So mixed earnings there at Etsy. Not so great on that discretionary consumer, although the stock's up about 3% after that. Western Digital beat. 846 million versus 786. Net revenue, $376 billion versus the expected $376 billion, and adjusted EPS coming in at $144 versus the estimate of $117. So Western Digital, really nice beat here. Looks like the Qs are moving up nicely, about 42 basis points now on the Qs. And Meta trying to hold on to about 5%. Okay, so let's see here. Well, let's jump briefly to listen to what some of the yapping is over here as they report some of the things we've covered. Let's see if they add any insights here.
Look, last quarter was notable because they raised the capital expense range in general. So pushed up the top end of the range as well. And they said that was of AI. They said we're investing more in AI. This is a long-term investment, and this is part of a bigger investment cycle. So I think there was some concern by investors that they might continue to increase that range and push it up even higher. But I think what we saw now is a narrowing of that range. So yes, the top end of that range is staying the same, but they're pulling up the bottom end of the range, but not pushing the whole thing higher.
All right.
And I'm sure there are going to be plenty of questions about this on the earnings call, John.
Oh, more than a few, I bet. Julia, thank you. eBay earnings are out. Meantime, Kate Rooney has those numbers. Kate?
Hey, John. Yeah, so it's looking like a beat on the top and bottom line, and Q3 guidance is all better than expected. Let's start with that EPS number. This is the adjusted number, beat by 5 cents here. It came in at $1.18, and then revenues as well, slightly above estimates at $2.57 billion. Gross merchandise volume, this is a key metric the street's watching, $18.4 billion. That was better than expected. And then on that guidance I mentioned, Q3 EPS guidance at the midpoint of the range, higher than expected. Same thing here on revenue guidance as well. Margins looking like they're in the double digits here. Operating margins of 21%. You can see shares dipping slightly despite that beat. John and Morgan, back over to you.
All right. Kate, thank you. David, I want to go back to you. Yeah, we just got these Meta results. We've been talking about big tech, AI spend for the better part of a week and a half, as we have seen the shifts and the rotation take place in the market. But as you do see the Metas of the world continue to spend tens of billions of dollars on this infrastructure build out, how does it position an investor, and I guess how does it factor back into this rotation and some of these companies that are going to be big beneficiaries?
You know, Morgan, I think I'll take that question back to the macro, which is what I do, and because I'm not that guy on the ground looking at each of these individual stocks. But I think from a macro perspective, everything that I just listened to and what I've been watching in tech earnings, and frankly, in most sector earnings, with the exception of a few places like commercial real estate and others, I think this economy looks strong. And I think Jay said that over and over again today. He was just talking about normalizing rates. People tried to get him to talk about 50s and what's the pace of rate cuts. And I actually listened to the questions over and over again. It was such a pessimistic crew at the press talking about why everything could go wrong. And I'm listening to a lot of things going right. I think things look...
All right, well, I want to stick with earnings here. So I want to continue to see what's going on here. Okay, so Meta's trying to balance right now at about 4.5%. It's given up a little bit. So we'll see what happens here. This is not ideal. What you really want to see is a rally here. You've got, FAM $5. Heck yeah, man. I betting on earnings here. Got my AMD calls. We've got, Carvana just came in. Carvana retail sales, wow, 101,000 vehicles. The estimate for sales was 94,000. They end up with revenue of 3.41 versus the estimate of 3.24. They actually beat EBITDA margin of 10.4%, and adjusted EBITDA blows out of the water, 3.55 million versus 257.5. Really good job here. So Carvana, wow, look at that. 6% on Carvana. Carvana trying to knock on the door of 146. Looks like it's not going to 91. Instead, it's going to the next line. Good job, Carvana. Yeah, AMD after hours, it's getting range bound over here. Look at that. You're stuck between 145, 143. This is really where you got stuck at the rest of the day yesterday. Today. Right. I mean, when the market was open. Really tough trading range here. You would have expected that with AMD's earnings yesterday and with these Facebook numbers that there would have been a bigger move here, but doesn't look like it's coming at least today. Maybe that sentiment changes tomorrow. So Etsy, on the other hand, now down 2% after they announced that resignation of the CFO. And then you've got... Yeah, look at that. Holy smokes. Carvana now 12.7% to the upside. IWM's not really moving much in the after hours. Qs are moving a little bit. AMD's stuck in the mud. Microsoft's actually down 20 basis points in the after. That's crazy. And then Enphase trying to move up about 36 basis points. No real big movers here. Tesla up about 49 basis points, but nothing major or dramatic here. You do have Bitcoin rotating down. Bearish rotation there on BTC. Not entirely clear why there. So Western Digital, BTC could be falling because of Trump's last interview. That last interview wasn't great for Trump. We'll break that down in a separate video though. So Western Digital missing, but on forecast, so Q1 forecast, margin beat, but Q1 EPS expected to come in at 165 versus the 175 expected. So a little bit of a miss there on Western Digital. Let's see if we can get Western Digital up here. Yeah, Western Digital down about 4. Etsy's now down about 2-3. Lam Research is... Let's see here. Lam Research is... I want to see how they're doing. So they beat adjusted EPS. Beat on Q1 for revenue. Guidance came in roughly at a match. And margin for Q1 guidance came in a little weak. So this one could be slightly soft. But let's see. The market often does what you're not expecting. Okay, yeah. On the slightly soft, down 4%. That's quite a bit. Okay, then Carvana. Carvana up about 8%. So really losing that 146 breakout here. And then you've got Meta. Again, we got the beat on Meta. Sees significant capital expenditures growth in 2025 and expects infrastructure costs to be the driver of expense in 2025. That's still spending on AMD and NVIDIA. ARM disappoints with tepid annual forecasts. I think ARM's still moving down. So still getting some pain there at ARM. And then Qualcomm, bullish forecast after phone demand perks up. That's it. That's all we got on Qualcomm, which was the first thing we heard. And they're stabilizing at about 5.5% now. So very nice. How the F is Carvana up? Yeah, no kidding, right? It's crazy. So, some of the things are so unexpected. So unexpected. But you know what? It is what it is. So eBay, let's see how eBay moves. eBay's up about 1%. There you have it. Okay, cool. Let's do a brief look over here. Probably won't do earnings calls today, but we'll summarize them separately. I want to get into that Trump video, which I'll get out separately.
Google, YouTube softness, and a little bit of softness we heard from an advertising softness from names like Spotify and from Pinterest. And what this shows is that Meta's got all of its product cycles clicking at this time, and the outlook for next quarter, instead of mid-teens revenue growth, is kind of high teens on much tougher comps. And so just for those who want to know that this revenue model is sustainable and highly profitable, those margins are super high intrinsically. People come away from this thinking, Meta's in a very good place in terms of being able to generate premium ad revenue growth for the foreseeable future.
Okay, and Angelo, as we look at what Reels has been doing for Meta thus far, the AI story for them with Llama and how they're applying it internally, seeming to gain some traction. Are there still lingering concerns about TikTok and the Facebook part of the platform being dead, or no?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think you always got to worry about the competitive pressures that are out there. But as far as kind of, Meta is concerned, I think they've kind of really, navigated some of the concerns and the storms that we were hearing, 2 or 3 years ago, and executing extremely well, clearly integrating AI across their ecosystem extremely nicely. And
all right, I think the rest is really just going to come down to what happens in the earnings reports, but I did want to go through all of those. Let's do one more quick look here at just how things are moving. Looks like you've got eBay up, Lam Research trying to recover now a bit. You've got Western Digital sitting under this 65 line. I didn't even know I had the line there. You've got Carvana really hanging out there, 146. Etsy's only down about 137. Seems like that stock's really trying to bottom out. 5.5 on Meta, 10 basis points on Apple. ARM's down about 8.9%. So a little bit of a mixed weight there. You do have Qualcomm up about 6.11, which is pretty bullish. And then you got talk about more infrastructure spending from both Qualcomm and Meta. You've got IWM kind of up 58 basis points on the day, only up about 0.1 right now, or 0.01 rather, in the afters. AMD, again, stuck in the mud, 144 to 145, little range bound here. The question really becomes, does AMD move to 140 or 160? You would have thought that after earnings there would have been more enthusiasm, but I guess not. I don't know if it'll come over the next couple of days or if that's screwed. We'll see. Supermicro ended up about 5.3 on the day. Ubiquity up 4.8 on the day. Tesla had a nice 4.2% day. Up about 21 basis points in the after hours. And look at this. Bitcoin just keeps moving down. Somewhat either an unfortunate indicator or a little bit of a bearish indicator. So there you have it. Thank you so very much for being here for the earnings. I'm going to go through the earnings calls later, and then we can report on them separately. But thanks for watching the earnings as they came out with me. Here we go. Even though I'm a licensed financial advisor, real estate broker, and becoming a stockbroker, this video is neither personalized financial advice nor real estate advice for you. It is not tax, legal, or otherwise personalized advice tailored to you. This video provides generalized perspective, information, and commentary. Any third-party content I show should not be deemed endorsed by me. This video is not and shall never be deemed reasonably sufficient information for the purpose of evaluating a security or investment decision. Any links or promoted products are either paid affiliations or products or services which we may benefit from. I personally operate and actively manage ETF and hold long positions in various securities, potentially including those mentioned in this video. However, I have no relationship to any issuers other than HouseHack, nor am I presently acting as a market maker. All right, there you have it. Thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.